And welcome to Rauta's Reviews. This time it's kind of a paid collaboration, so I'm not having a physical product here in my hands, but actually talking about digital release because the physical product is already sold out a long time ago. So here we go straight to the metal archive site for this given band, Galicia, or Galicia. Could be both ways really. So as you can see, this band was founded in early 2020s. Well, there is no actual date mentioned here, but that's beside the point. Nobody gives a damn even if you were founded in 1980s when your first release that is known to people is 2021. So two EPs in already in the first year, and then the later year, the first album, Precipice, I don't know how to pronounce that shit, and then a split later on. Now the band got in contact with me because I had some other review and wanted me to talk about it, and as such, here we are. So the style here is labeled as black death metal. Now my only experience with the band is with this debut album some 3 years ago, so we are obviously gonna talk about that. 2 members according to this information, and the style is indeed black and death metal, but there is a twist. Now this twist with this 32 minutes or so of an album is that this is purely kind of a melodic death metal combined with some raw end of black metal. But this raw end of stuff is not exactly Ilion or Dark Throne because, well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So not exactly the most primitive stuff you're gonna hear, but still rather lo-fi kind of approach. So this lo-fi recording or sound is very much giving you that the first impression is like, okay, these guys probably did this at the rehearsal place. Maybe so, doesn't matter, goes beyond the point. What matters is that it really gives this album rather homemade, DIY feeling, so it's more like from the underground for fellow people in the underground. But it means that there is this rougher edge around this music where you have then again this melodic death metal. Now these different elements or parts, doesn't matter which way you call them, are somehow actually very incompatible with one another. But once you give it a go and then another go and so on, you will start to kind of letting the whole idea creep in. There is another but though, which is combining very rough, kind of very traditional growly vocals with so much more raspier, kind of a grim sounding black metal vocals. So once again, it's basically one of these releases which are coming from 2 different worlds. And for some people, it's gonna be very much a blessing, like, having the best of both worlds. And for some people, it feels like a weird marriage in a sense. Sometimes the weirdest couple are the best ones. Sometimes, however, that's exactly the opposite. So what I'm trying to say here is this is definitely not for the most people in the underground, and even less so in the mainstream, because these parts, whether we're talking about these different sets of vocals or putting melodic death metal together with some more grim homemade black metal feeling, is gonna make a lot of people say nope or ask what the hell is going on around here. Now on the fundamental level, I kind of like what these guys are doing because it's not your typical approach coming with the black and death metal. Now, if people are thinking 2 things, first of all, like war metal, combining grindy death metal with black metal elements, or later era behemoth with that stuff, well, this is not exactly neither. So this is coming from the corner that is very much like resounding the early 90s. Now, I read actually one review because I was thinking like what other people say. There's only one review on Metal Archives taken from another site. And this reviewer actually made a good point. It kind of resonates as if it was close relative to early Absu from the very early 90s. And when I started thinking about it, I mean, yeah, there are some clean screams, the kind of very high pitchy ones, which are actually what, Proscriptor and the stuff did with early Absu and later era as well, too. So all these clean parts, but they're definitely not dominating the whole thing here. But also, this approach with death and black metal being combined with some melodic riffs is exactly the kind of early Absu stuff. I mean, Absu's debut album is after all more a death metal one, and then after that it started more leaning and going deeper into the world of black metal. Musically speaking, that is, occult themes and whatnot are a whole different discussion. So in a way, this is very much like going to that direction. And while this doesn't sound oral like Apsu does, these are probably some kind of a connecting dots which you might feel are interesting and also equally important to understand in order to talk about this music. Like I said, however, this is not for everybody. This is kind of expecting you to understand underground black metal and underground death metal, and then putting those two different parts together. Some of the riffs are not exactly good, but I mean, there are lots of interesting ideas throughout the recording. Overall, I would say the production could and should be a lot stronger. This is not only because this kind of stuff is kind of leaning towards something more, say, better produced. Think about like early At the Gates or whatever. But also because, it really should give a more punch to this kind of stuff. But either way, beyond the production, it obviously goes to the very basic things. You have to be able to, digest both melodic death metal and black metal to be fully able to understand and like this recording. Since there are not much links to this given band in the description box, there will be only the links to this Bandcamp site from which you can find this album for your digital listening pleasure, as well as this Metal Archive site, so you can dig into the links and other stuff. But like I said, there is not much to be found, and since this is already sold out, I think a lot of you will just have to go with the Bandcamp link at this very moment. Maybe in the foreseeable future there will be some kind of a reprint of a physical copy, but that is merely a guess here. But now you know a little bit more about this band. Obviously we'll be expecting them to come out with more recordings in the future, but meanwhile go with the debut album, and if you like it, there's more stuff for you to explore. Thank you for watching this review, and should you have any comments or questions, let me know in the description box or the comments box below, and I'll get back to you. Now off you go. Bye.